Esta entrevista que dice sobre Baby Driver la tengo guardada hace un tiempo largo. Hablé con Jeremy Fry, el doble de riesgo y también coordinador de algunas escenas de riesgo de esta película de Edgar Wright. Él se encargó de manejar el auto de Ansel Elgort y habló de cómo fue pensar y coordinar y diagramar cada una de estas escenas. También me contó algunas cuestiones, algunos problemas que tuvieron durante el rodaje. Por eso dividí la nota en dos partes. Para los más fierreros, para los más fanáticos de los autos, sigan hasta el final porque hay algunas cuestiones más técnicas referidas a problemas que tuvieron durante el rodaje. Para el resto, para los que les gustó solamente la película y quizás no tienen tanta idea de autos, se pueden quedar en la primera mitad de la nota. Está bastante claro igual. Yo les digo que si les gusta la entrevista, que si les gustó la película, quédense hasta el final porque es interesante todo lo que cuenta Jeremy Fry en este informe sobre Baby Driver.
We now return to Mira Akian and Contré with our latest interview.
He's very complimentary, and I appreciate that. He's a good dude. Edgar really takes his stuff seriously. He lives and breathes his projects.
So what is it you do?
I'm a driver.
Oh, like a chauffeur.
Initially, it was all Darren. Darren worked with Edgar, coming up with the idea. So by the time when I got on board, they already had been discussing and talking and trying to work out how to do some of these things. In particular, the choreographing the action, the car action to the music. So that was a very big requirement and a very big undertaking. What Edgar did, and it's genius, and he's not the first person to do it by any means, and it's almost standard now. But what he did that was super helpful was he had an animation created of the car chase. So we had a pretty high quality basic cartoon of what he and Darren had come up with as far as ideas and beats, and he had put that to music. But what happens is in real life, it doesn't always, what people draw on their computers in their office is not always something that you can replicate in real life. For example, they had this one shot where a car comes around a corner, goes around a corner, and disappears. And it happened in like 3 beats. But, you go out there in real life, and it took 4 times as long to do even something close to it. So once we had his animation, we then had to go out into a parking lot and start replicating this stuff and to see how much of it would translate and how much of it we would have to modify.
Let's go.
You really want to be comfortable with where your pedals are, where the wheel is, how much input does what.
If you can't see the driver, it's probably not Ansel. And it's not necessarily because it's not at all a reflection of his ability or inability. He actually did quite well, and he enjoyed it, and he was really fun to work with. The reality is a lot of times it's just shooting schedule. We're on second unit, we're off by ourselves doing this stuff, and first unit has the actors, they're doing their stuff. So a lot of times he just can't be in 2 places at once. So, but anytime you actually see him, he's in the car. There's a chance that it might be in a pod car where he's not actually driving. And the reason you do that is because sometimes even as good as Ansel was, there's some things that you just take someone with decades of experience like Nagel has. So he would put it through some of the paces like jumping and racing down these really kind of precarious terrains. So Ansel did do a lot of his own driving though, it was great to see him, and I got to spend a lot of time with him in the car teaching him, and he did a really good job. So some of it is him. If you're not seeing inside the car, it's probably not him. Whether it's because we could probably take it up a notch, or more likely he just wasn't around. Anytime he's driving any of the big stuff, it was probably me. There's definitely shots. What Darren does, what he does so good, is he will come up with ways to insert the actor into the shot. And so we'll come up with these, I say he will, or we'll talk about it, but we'll come up with these situations where we think this would be a really good place to put him in. It's a gag that he can't do now, but with some training, I think he can do it, and we can shoot it in a way that showcases the actor's ability and that he's doing it. So we came up with a couple of shots. We're like, this would be really cool to see Ansel do this. And so we would work with Ansel specifically on those shots so that he could drive that car. John Hamm, in the end of the movie, he does some driving, his character at least, and he as well. So we also got John Hamm out there, and he had actually just got off of a show where he had been doing some driving, and he had actually had some training. So when he jumped in the car with me, it was pretty much just kind of review, and he he did great. It was almost too easy for him. He'd get in the car, he'd do it, and then he'd be all right. So he's great though. He is super intelligent. He's super fun to be with. He comes in, he gets the job done. He doesn't mess around. And he's funny. He's a fun guy, but he also doesn't waste time. And then same thing, just like with Ansel, you get him in the car whenever you can. There were definitely some shots when we had him driving. There were definitely shots where he was not driving. We had a gentleman by the name of Rich Rutherford double him, and Rich is an amazing driver. I have not seen that guy put a foot wrong yet. It's he's impressive. He's a guy I look up to and in the business. And so Rich did double John in it and did the driving. In particular, the driving was when they were in the parking structure. Now, as I've gotten older, I can't stay in the car for very long. So it's funny. I'm not envious of the actors when they have to sit in the car while we're doing these things, because it can be really nauseating. So I had the actors in the car a handful of times where I was driving and they were in the car. We used several different pieces of equipment to get these shots. One was the pod cars. Another one was a thing called a biscuit rig, and it's hard to describe, but it's basically a drivable trailer. So you put the car on the biscuit rig, and then there's another driver's pod, like just what you see on the pod car, but it's on this powered platform, and they can move that driver's pod wherever they want, wherever the cameras aren't seen. Typically, it's on the front. So you would have basically a flat platform with a little driver's pod up front that Nago would drive, and the car would be sitting on this platform super low. So a lot of times, that's where you'd find the actors.
What is your name?
Baby.
Your name's Baby. B-A-B-Y, baby.
There are some things that you'll actually do calculations for, maybe some jumps or something like that. But a lot of times it's just experience and trial and error. A lot of it's trial and error. More error for me than trial. I think there were like 3 or 4 kind of sequences. No, there were 4 at least. 4 major sequences that we did. The most popular one's the first one with the Subaru. One of them is the 180 in, the 180 out, the in and out in the alley. That was stressful. We did that one. I think we did it at speed 3 times. And then I just... I don't know what it was. When we had done the rehearsals, the car rotated faster, and we ran into that problem all day with it. Everywhere, different locations, different surfaces. The car just, every time we'd start sliding, it would just suck up the speed. I'm not sure what the deal was. In fact, if you look in the alley shot, you'll actually see where there's water in certain spots, and that water was strategically placed, and it was not by choice. I did not want that water there because we had not rehearsed it with water. But we would also not rehearse it at the alley either. We just had it in parking lots. So I was having a hard time getting it to come around, and so that's when we put the water down. The reason I don't like doing that kind of stuff is because I don't like changing stuff on the day. We had done it with water, so I didn't know what kind of effect I knew what effect it would have, but not necessarily completely what effect it would have. Last thing I wanted was all of a sudden it got super slick, and then I ended up in the wall. So yeah. It was that was a stressful one for me. I didn't like that one. We did have one car that they had really turned up the boost on, literally and figuratively, and it was putting out, I'm guessing, 300 horsepower. We had that one built specifically for the 180 in, 180 out, because I wanted as much power. We had a very short run up, and then and then it was scrubbing off a lot of speed. I wanted more power to drive out of it, so we built that one for that gag, and we used it for a couple other things too. I can think of one time when we did munch one of the Subarus. It was the rear-wheel drive, the one that I've been using a lot. It was on a day that we had 4 big gags we were doing. We were really busting that day. We started with a shot of when he takes the Subaru and he's sliding. He just evaded the one cop by we did a 270 into intersection, and he kicks the spike strip out, and then he takes off. And he takes off, and he kind of slides. He's coming up towards camera and slides towards camera, and then follows the camera around the corner. And then as he makes the corner, you see behind him this flotilla of 8 cop cars. We did that turn a bunch, and it was I had been driving with some guys. We go out, once a month or so, just kind of messing around. It's kind of training. It's kind of play. It's a little bit of everything. We take our drift cars out and we go drive. It wasn't a long straight, but it was a longer straight, and then it would go into this kind of open right-hand turn. It's a bit of a decreasing radius, so you could come into it pretty fast, and then it did tighten up a little bit, but it was a straightaway into it. And so we had been going to this track a little bit, and so all of us, we'd come in, we'd kind of come in, and we'd throw the car sideways and into the corner. Well, I followed Jeff. So Jeff came out with us one time, and Jeff had been doing some drifting too. So Jeff comes out, and I'm following him, and this guy, so if this is the entry to the corner, I would start rotating my car about here. Well, I followed Jeff in, and Jeff comes into it like here and kicks it sideways and just slides his car sideways and then into the corner. I was watching, I go, wow, that is really cool. I like that. I like that a lot. So then I started doing it, and it kind of changed my thinking a bit about how I approach stuff. And the idea is, this is a movie, it's for show. So let's make this thing look as good, at least what I think looks good, and I'll do as best I can. I know there's other guys who can jump in the car and make it look better, but I'll do the best I can to get what I see in my head and put it into the car. I started as far back as I could and got as much speed as I could, and then I locked it just with the e-brake and just slid this thing sideways. As I started as early as I felt I possibly could. Jeff could probably get in there and start another 30 feet earlier, but I did what I could and just tried to slide and just ride that slide right up to camera, and then the camera starts to pull away, and we make the corner. So I've been doing that. I did it about 5 or 6 times, and I've got a full load. I got the stunt doubles in the car. So this poor car is just loaded to the hilt. It's not just me. And then we're doing another one, and I pitch it in there, and we're going. All of a sudden, I go, oh my gosh, hold on, guys, hold on, we're not going to make it. And we just, instead of sliding and then making the corner, I just slid. We slid right, and here comes the curb on the side. And this curve is not a normal curve. This is not like a 6-inch curve. This is like a 1 foot. This is a small wall. It's not a curb. It's a small barrier. And I'm thinking, oh, dude, we're gonna hit it, and we're hitting it sideways. So I slid the car, and now we're just, instead of sliding and going, we're just sliding. So we hit this thing, and I thought I was gonna pitch the car up and over, and thank God it hit it. It went boom, and it kind of bounced up and then landed on the sidewalk. Like, oh my gosh. I made sure it was okay. Is everyone okay? Everyone was fine. I was confused, and I was like, man, I don't know what I did. I obviously did something, and this is horrible. I cannot believe this happened. And I get out, and we're trying to figure it out, and they get the car, and I'm looking at the skid marks, and there's 6 or 7 skid marks that are all on top of each other, and there's one set of skid marks that just goes straight. I'm like, man, that just doesn't seem like, I didn't do anything different. I mean, if I started different, if I missed a shift, if I decided to go faster, I don't know. If I had done something different than all the other takes, I would go, well, that was a poor choice apparently, but I didn't do anything any different. And so we get the report back from the shop when the guys got the car, like, dude, we found where one of the rear suspension uprights had broke, and I didn't get into it, but they said, yeah, when it broke, it towed out, and it drove you out of the wall. So it felt good that I didn't do anything to cause that. It doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
I give you a long list of times when I can't blame the car.